And then we Xeroxed it so we had like a nice border.
So I'd like to thank Gaston and Patty here at this fabulous establishment. I would also like to thank all of the characters for coming out this evening. Friend the Girl, Hindrance of Perfidia, and last but not least, Strigopez. The first, we're going to have a multimedia experience this evening. And we're going to have a slideshow. And it's sort of like one of those books on tape experiences.
Persimmon. Once there was a miller by trade, who was actually an evil, wicked witch. She lived in a semi-translucent, crystallized, sugar shell, syrup sap shack by a babbling brook and a waterfall. Her mill wheel would churn the water and rhythmically whine and shriek. For the power that drove it was not from the water, but from the souls of slaughtered children. This evil witch was named Matilda, Millie for short, which she thought was clever, being a miller and all. Her hair, teeth, and fingernails were long and ended in points. Her skin was as white as ivory, but glowed underneath, and was luminous in the darkness, like a lily by the night of the crescent moon. She was an alchemist and genetics engineer, finding sources of never-ending amusement in combining two uncomplementary gene pools. For instance, she combined a tick with a goat that could jump from several miles away to suck its chosen victim's blood. After seeing it in action, Millie laughed so hard she turned blue and fainted, landing on a rock in the process, and suffered a well-deserved concussion. She was fond of murdering children and would lure them with the sound of the paddle wheel. It made rhythmic, curious noises, almost like a song. Anyone who had other things on their mind, taxes and laundry, money and love, anyone without a clear conscience could not hear the song. It could only be heard if one's mind and soul were blank. It is because of this that only children would respond and be lured to Millie's house and their impending doom. She would feed them pancakes and syrup, then tie their hands and feet and hang them from the ceiling, where they would flap like screeching fish, while she slit their throat and licked the blood from their cheeks and shins. She combined the ovaries of one of the children with the piston of a flower to grow herself a daughter. Her own womb was infertile, and some even thought she resembled a hideously beautiful man. She loved her daughter immensely. She had delicate pale skin with the texture of a tulip stem. It had a tint of green as well. Her hair and her eyes were bright yellow, mimicking the young girl who had been murdered to create her. Persimmon hated her mother and had a strong aversion to eating meat. As a child, she was warped and disgusted by the sight of the constantly murdered children hanging from the kitchen ceiling and her mother's fondness for blood. All she wanted was air, warmth, water, and sunlight. Simple things other people seemed to obtain so easily and in such abundance. Things she was denied, or if she could have one, she couldn't have the other. It was a constant source of frustration and fury to poor Persimmon. For these reasons, and many others of her own, she would constantly try to run away from home. First as a young child of 2, 7, 10. dreaming of the loving mother and father waiting out there for her, there, just beyond her reach, out of the woods, where peach trees grew in the yard, and she could have a puppy and not a blood-sucking, jumping goat. As a young woman, she would run away hoping to find a true love, her husband, whose sweet character and body were stronger than her mother's evil and would protect and care for her. Millie, of course, hated these constant excursions and put a spell on Persimmon's feet, which would always return home against her will if her wicked mother stamped the floorboards 3 times and chanted, "Come on home, do not roam, going away means hell to pay!" In desperation, Persimmon was going to chop off her own feet with an axe, but her mother discovered her plan before it was executed and put a stop to it by changing her into a weeping stone fountain, proclaiming, "There, that'll fix you from going anyplace." There Persimmon stood by the brook for time eternal, a weeping stone fountain of a lovely young damsel, surrounded by the dappled light that barely ebbed its way through the tight weave of branches. There she stood to witness the lumberjacks who finally came to murder her mother after all the carnage that had ensued. They burned and melted the sugar shell's shack and gave all the slaughtered children Christian burials. But this did not stop their ghosts from lingering around the area, continually weeping, complaining, and driving Persimmon mad. They left the paddle wheel and built a new miller's. The husband and wife who lived there cleared most of the trees around the shack and built a regular road leading to it. They were fond of hunting and accidentally shot 2 of her fingers off while aiming at a doe. They had 2 children, a daughter and a son, and stillborn children whose ghosts joined the others in the constant juvenile dirge tirade. The daughter drowned in the brook at the age of 4, which left only the son, who grew to be strong and handsome and eventually took a wife. It was their son Gabriel with whom Persimmon became infatuated. She loved him from the first moment she saw him, and decided then and there that she would be his guardian angel. Once at the age of 2, he almost fell into the brook and drowned like his aunt. Another time, when he was 12, he climbed a nearby tree, and when the branch broke, she willed the moss to grow where he was about to fall, so no injury came to him. As a child, he had many sweet memories of staring up at her, the sunlight caressing her cheek and breast, and her eternal stone expression of compassion and sadness. If he stared long at her enough, her face and form would waver and seem to have a life of its own. He would always wonder where she came from. He had a suspicion if she wasn't a stone wrought into the shape of a woman by human hands, she seemed like she had been born somehow. When he was a young man, he planned to leave the miller behind and seek his fortune by other means. At night, he would toss in his bed with worry, wondering what would become of him. In his dreams, the statue would come through his balcony window, kiss him and stroke his hair, and say soothing things to him. When he awoke, the balcony window, previously bolted shut, would be open, and the statue had resumed her position by the brook once more. When this happened repeatedly for over a month, Gabe could stand it no longer, and he went to Persimmon, fell on his knees, and cried, pleading for her to stop taunting him. He knew it wasn't sane to be more enamored of a statue than he had been of other live women. He begged to be let free of his obsession. After his rant, he stood and touched her hip, then softly kissed her. The kiss, meant to be one of farewell, was changed to one of salutation, when to his great surprise, he was kissing the mouth of a live woman, and in his hand was no longer a cold stone hip, but live, smooth flesh, tinged with green. Persimmon regained the form she had lost so long ago, except for the 2 fingers Gabe's grandparents had shot off her hand. Gabe had broken the spell Persimmon's evil mother had cast upon her, and after much rejoicing and explanation, he married his guardian angel Persimmon, and moved far away from the brook and the ghosts to a distant sprawling house with a peach tree.
Tonight before we